Hey everybody, Tom Smith, Wildrose, Mississippi. Welcome to the Wildrose Way Podcast. We talk everything sporting dog, just everything under the sun besides dogs also, because we got a lot of folks out there who love dogs, who do some really cool things. So thanks for joining in. Like and subscribe. It'll help the channel. And let's get started with our guest this week. Longtime client, Dawson Cherry from North Carolina. Welcome, Dawson.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. Lots of great Wildrose people out there, and just excited to do this and have fun as we sit and chat for a little bit.
Absolutely. Just like we normally do, sitting around the camp after a hunt. So, where'd you grow up?
Eastern North Carolina, a little town called Mount Olive where they make the pickles, and born and raised there, and then went to school at Chapel Hill.
Hotty toddy.
The Carolina, by the way. There's one Carolina blue in my mind, but was in Chapel Hill for about 13 years and then have been in Charleston now for 27 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize y'all been in Charleston that long.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite towns.
We had a good time. We've had several good times.
Yes, we have.
We've had several good times.
Now you made me lose my train of thought, Dawson.
Well, that first good time was a real good time.
So yeah, Charleston, I love it. I'm a history major, so the history there, and then the food. The food's just crazy there. I love going there every February for seaweed. So, grew up hunting, fishing, dogs.
Yeah, so my dad was the catalyst for that. I can go back to when I was 5 years old fishing, and he'd falling off the dock into the water, throwing me back in the boat with my brother, catching Spanish mackerel off of Wrightsville Beach. And then the same thing for hunting. Back in the day, our first bird dog was Missy. Then it was Joe and Rex. Then it was Buck and Belle, which was a little setter I had. Dad was eat up with it hard and really planted the seed and got me the addiction that has lasted since then. I tell the story sometimes. I was that kid in high school when I played basketball in the fall, and at practice I'd have my truck, F100 white Ford truck, aluminum dog box in the back. I'd have it loaded up with a dog, and if I got home and we got done with practice about 4:15, I could be at Joyner's Farm, and I had a couple of coveys pinned down, and I could hunt them and still be home just before dark. And, these days, if I did that, I'd probably get expelled. But that's how ate up I've been with it. And I left it as I went to college and grad school, but am back to it with just loving where I'm at now and being able to do it as much as I can.
So, did you grow up duck hunting at all, or was it all upland?
Most of it was upland. Interesting story on the upland. We went to Mattamuskeet, which is a historic waterfowl area in the Carolinas, and that was in the 70s. And they had just started to clear fields for super farms, and there were hedgerows miles long. And we're sitting there with our bird dog guy, Durwood Lane, my dad, my brother. The ducks weren't flying that day. It used to be a heavy place for geese, but we were hearing quail everywhere. Even saw coveys fly across the road. And so we unloaded the bird dogs and limited on wild quail back in the 70s. And that was really special in a waterfowl area. But my first waterfowl memories, one in a pit blind in Currituck Sound, with my dad, with my Redskins jacket on and my Navy cap, no camo back then. No. We took the boat out, and a 9-volt lantern was where we turned. There was no LEDs, nothing like that. And then the other cool place, and where I'd always grown up with upland dogs, but where I really was like, man, I'm going to get me a Labrador, was Northeast Cape Fear. Oakley Plantation, Jim Talbot, a friend of my dad's, attorney out of Wilmington, classic Eastern North Carolina rice plantation, late season hunt, sitting on the dike, frozen hard, and damned if I didn't knock a drake down, landed on the ice, way deep, course, I didn't kill it hard, but it was dead, and we started trying to get the labs to the duck, and finally we did. And just to see those labs breaking through that ice, I was like, when I get older, I'm going to have me a bunch of labs. I'm going to have me a bunch of labs. And their place was just iconic. You walked in, it was like walking into Hemingway's house, and the dikes, and to hunt there. And they were eat up with it in the 70s. I hope it's still going. Just a really neat place to kind of be baptized with waterfowl, and mounted that wood duck, and I have always loved it. Now I get the opportunity to do both, and as much as I can. So anyway.
Speaking of the upland, your brother still got it bad. Got to get a shout out to the Pirate Colonel Steve. Retired colonel from the U.S. Army, great dude, and he loves his upland dogs. And
yes, he does.
I got to hunt behind him, and man, when they had that point 250 yards from us, and that pheasant held till we got there for us just to miss it. But it was still a beautiful point and hold.
Oh, he had some great ones, and his dog Banks, who's since passed, Banks had a 2-rooster point, and we knocked both those roosters down hard, and threw the dogs in and never found either one of them.
Yeah.
And that's wild bird hunting in the Dakotas, and he we'll be back at it this year, and just love hunting and fishing with him, and he's eat up with it as well, and that's how we both grew up, was that, and sports and scouting was what we're involved in growing up as kids.
Awesome. So you graduate, you get your master's degree.
Yep.
Where'd you go from there?
I waited tables for a long time, and
Struggling actor?
Struggling to make a living. Iconic restaurant called Slugs right outside of Chapel Hill. But after that, right when I graduated, I nearly went to Alaska. I had the job lined up. I was going to pick salmon, coho, silvers, and kings, sort them on the beach. A buddy of mine had done it with a family. And I was a week away from going. I was dating a girl at the time, living with a girl at the time, and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go. And then I got the real secure job, and I went to Anderson, South Carolina, and worked at a plant there, doing all kinds of stuff, learned an absolute ton, still good friends with the people that were at that plant, and then had really pivoted from a career in finance and banking and to a career in healthcare, and stayed in healthcare for 33 years.
Because you just retired last year or the year before?
Year before, May of 2023. Yeah. Got through the COVID. Probably would have worked a couple more years if it wasn't for the COVID. It was like 8 years and 3, and then have been retired the last couple of years. So, yeah.
So when did you make your move from around the Chapel Hill, Anderson area to Charleston? You were already in the kind of the healthcare management field then?
Yep. So I got a call from a friend of a friend, and there was a clinic in Durham that was a PT clinic. I had worked in Durham for several years, but then got to a point where I got some other offers and some things to consider, and I went to my boss, and she said, well, we got Winston-Salem, Greensboro, or Charleston. And I was like, well, I love to fish and hunt, and if I can get back to Charleston, I'll miss my sports, but if I can go to Charleston. And she looked me in the eye, and this was in July of 98, and she said, you'll probably fail. And I was like, well, thanks.
Well, thanks, yeah. Let me show you what I got.
Yep, and I was 34 years old, and I said, I'll make it work, and we went through, it was a acquisition clinic that was bought with a nursing home, it was a PT clinic. And I was the guy that did everything else, helped the licensed therapist, did the marketing, did the books, worked for a couple of corporate companies, owned and ran my own PT clinic, and then the guys that referred to me, an orthopedic practice in Charleston. Shout out to South Carolina Sports Medicine Orthopedic Center. Some great people there. Worked with them the last 15 years as practice manager.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's the fun part. There's things you absorb being around stuff, because, you know, when we'd be out in North Dakota and have those 35,000 step days, people would be like, oh, man, and you're like, do this, do this, do this, do this. you'll be all right.
Keep them going. Keep them going.
Yeah. So when did the better half come along, Miss Molly?
You know, that was such a gift from God. I had been in Charleston for about 10 years, dated a bunch, had a couple serious girlfriends, and I'd said to myself, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And I was happy doing my thing, running a business, and some friends that thought we would jive and connect said we want to meet, and I'd had so many blind dates, and of course her eyes are rolling now. She's hearing this, I'm sure.
I'm sure she is.
I said, I got to have a sighting. I got to see it, and we went and had a drink at a bar in Charleston. Of course, she hates that, but she gave me a wink, and I'm telling you, you know it when you see it. And she was coming off a relationship, so it didn't get started quick. I had to be patient. I had to call a buddy of mine about 90 days in a row to not chase it away. And she's just a great lady and just a great part of my life, and love her so much. And just has been such a wonderful partnership to have.
Yeah, so, I love Molly.
Yeah,
she's just so awesome.
Yeah,
you know, because every now and then something happened at Wildrose, she'll send me a text and be like, "Hey, congratulations!" You know, just such a cheerleader type person.
Yeah,
bubbly personality, very well accomplished in her career field. So yeah, we miss Molly. You know, haven't seen her since we had the dinner.
Yep.
Were we there last year? Yeah, it was last year. Yep. Last April for our anniversary. So, all right. So let's talk about your Labrador experience.
My Labrador lineage?
Yes. How it started even before Wildrose.
Oh, man. You know, like I said, that duck hunt and on the Northeast Cape Fear really lit it. And so you go through life and work, and you're really devoted to that. You kind of go through this. You're yearning, you're learning, and you're earning. And I finally got to a spot that I could have a dog. And interesting story. This guy that I was hanging out with at the time, he had a sire named Harley, and he had a dam named Davidson.
I like it.
And so
I like it.
So at about 4 weeks, I went and picked out a pup. And picked him up at 6 or 8 weeks. I can't remember, but his name was Cooper. And Cooper was my running partner. And when I first got to Charleston, I used to race triathlons and was big into that. And Cooper was really more a running partner than anything else. And short of July and August, he was always there with me. And probably did more to help me get married than anything. He'd lean up against Molly, and just a great dog. And he started it all, and lived about 12 and a half, and actually was active and running right up until the bitter end, and had a clot in his leg, and then through a stroke. And and 5 days later he was gone. And then there was Kate, and we had bred Kate and Cooper and had a couple of litters. I was the history of being in bird dogs and the history of looking at dogs, and was looking and researching a lot of labs and stuff, and was ready to really get back into the hunting game, and had heard about Wildrose and had followed Wildrose. And so in 2011 and really in 2009 and 10 had known about them, and I would have probably been on a list in 2009, probably 2010-ish. And Deacon was my first Wildrose lab then. And then, of course, Deacon is still here with us. And now we also have Doc.
Ginormo.
Doc is Ginormo. He's an out-of-standard British Labrador. He has the British Labrador temperament. But
he's got the look and the face, but he's just... I mean, that's his daddy behind you, Kane,
that's right.
On the right. And Kane was like 60, 62 pounds. And Doc is 81, 82 pounds. Yeah. And not fat.
No. And Blake walked out with him when we all came, and Kent and Judd and Chris, and we all were here to pick up our dogs. And I never forget Blake, because I was the only black dog in the bunch. They were all yellow or red, and Blake walked out with him, and at 8 weeks he was 15 pounds.
Yeah.
He was a big dog.
He was just, from the get-go, just a massive dog. And you know, Murphy had a couple like that.
Yep.
And there was another one out of Kane, Judd's son first dog. Garrett's first dog. I can't think of the dog's name, but he was like 77, 78 pounds.
And at some of the seminars, every now and then you'll see a bigger one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the temperament is still a British Lab temperament. Is still 100% there.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are we going to do today?
Yeah. And
what are we going to do at lunch? What are we going to do at supper?
Yeah. And ready every morning, because we would train before work at 5 or 5:30, and he knows about an hour before sunrise, and that's when we do most of our training.
Yeah.
Through a lot of people's front yards and a lot of places in Charleston. That's how we train both Deacon and Doc.
Before people get up.
Yeah, before people get up, before they know it.
Yeah, 100%. So what drew you to Wildrose?
You know, I've read all the trainers. Richard Walters, Gun Dog, Water Dog. I wish I could find it. I have a 1961 copy.
Oh, wow.
Of my dad. And Tar was the lab in that book.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
And have read Barlow. I've read the Smiths, Ronnie and Ricky, and Savannah Love, and Susanna Love, and I have read Doken, Danny Farmer, Charlie Journey out of Tideward area. And when I read Mike's stuff, it was a little different and a little unique. And I always tell people it's a comparison, and I'm a basketball fan, and it's a comparison to Dean Smith and Bobby Knight. You know, who you want your kid to play for? You know, you want to play for Dean, or you want to play for Bobby Knight? You want to lose a little more force, or you want to use a little more trust? And Mike's focus on trust and attrition and repetition, and then really the self-awareness of looking at yourself. Mm-hmm. And my wife says this because I've got some high-powered people that are in my retrieving group in Charleston, and she'll say, well, how are you going to tell so-and-so is a world-class trauma doctor? How are you going to tell that judge how to train the dog? I said, well, you got to learn how to drive the Ferrari.
Yeah.
And the handler-focused, advanced handler and beginning handling, the first thing you got to do is check yourself. Mm-hmm. It made me a better leader. It made me a better person. I'm still working on that, still some days more than others. But it made me self-aware. And if you're self-aware with your dog will follow. And it's your timing, your tempo, your tone, the things Mike talks about. My employees at South Carolina, they'd come in all the time, and there'd be Deacon on place. And they're like, how in the world does he do that? I'd walk around the clinic or go check on MRI, or go to PT, or go to one of our OT clinics. And they're like, that dog's still there. He's still sitting in your office. And that was place training 101.
100%.
And it would just be incredibly well-mannered. And manners matter. The thing I tell some of my young guys is it's not to get invited one time, it's to get invited back. And so as I read Mike's book and got to know Mike and you and the whole team and all the great people of Wildrose, you really start to see it and start to understand it. And you can pick up things from all dog trainers. There's so many pearls to pick up from so many people. But Mike's was a little different, a little unique. As I started to do it, it really worked. And when that dog trusts you and you develop that repetition and that attrition through repetition, versus and we I'm not saying I've never used an e-collar. I grew up with a big gold box, a Tritronics one.
With a big old round.
On a dog named Buck that was meant for Oklahoma, that ran to Duplin County, away from me in Wayne County. And I'm sorry, Buck, I shouldn't have done it as much as I did there. But there are times when that tool is needed. But it's learning to do it a different way and a better way, and then starting right from the get-go as pups and layering that down. Probably the biggest thing for me, one of my favorite sayings is small, consistent behaviors over long periods of time. And whether it's your marriage, whether it's your investments, whether it's your friends, the same thing applies with your pup. If you can get in 15 or 20 minutes, if you can do it 2 times a day, 4 to 5 times a week, do the math.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the end of the month, that's 80 to 100 times. By the time you get through 6 months, you're talking you've done things 500 times.
Yeah.
I continue to learn. One of the things I learned early with Deacon was, got to make it fun, got to make it variety. You cannot drill them; they're going to get bored. And that's just the whole secret in the sauce, if you will, to make it work.
Yep. Repetition and consistency,
Yeah.
minus boredom, times variable conditions is going to create a predictable habit.
Correct.
And that repetition and consistency is so important, and that structure in a young dog.
Yes.
Dogs like structure. We get some dogs come in for training. They're a little wild, and man, within a month of being in this structured environment, they're thriving.
Yeah.
But then you got some others who don't necessarily like it so much. So you have to tailor what you do to each dog.
And training the dog in front of you is so key.
Yep.
You can't train more than one at a time. You train the dog in front of you. They're all different. They're all like people. They're not robots. There is a little bit of art to it, and I hear some guys reading the book, and they're like, it doesn't tell me exactly to do exactly what to do at exactly that time. I was like, no, because you only can go as fast as your dog will allow you to go. And a lot of times you're going to be taking 2 steps back to take 1 step forward.
100%. Always go 2 steps back if you run into a problem, because you want to reinforce those earlier building blocks to rebuild upon it, make sure that foundation's secure.
Yep. And breaking things down into small pieces. I show people that all the time. Got a great group of people in Charleston. Shout out to the retriever group that meets Friday mornings. All those folks that are there with that is just, in a retrieve, there's probably 8 different things happening.
A minimum.
I mean, yeah, for real. He's got to be steady beside you. He's got to be on heel. He's got to be at your side. He's got to remember to mark it. He's got to go out. He's got to pick it up. Got to bring it back. And of course, during that retrieve, he could go through cover, through land, in and out of water. And then by the time you get there, if you want to get that nice delivery to hand, you want to get that nice J hook right beside you, and to get all that and put all that together from when their times as a pup until they're out in the field with you in special places with special people at special times of the year. It's magical. I mean, it's just a cool thing, and to see it all come together.
Yeah. So, did you do things different with Doc than Deacon?
Yeah, totally.
Funny how that works.
Totally.
And it's like you learn something every single dog. All right, I did this with this dog, and like Zeus Buckner.
Yeah.
I hunted him in cover too much because he loved it. Well, if I was lining him and he had a patch of cover, he's going to quarter through it before he popped out the other side.
Yeah.
Indian did that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I gotta balance that a little more. And that was been several years ago. Balance that hunting cover versus punching through cover better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not telling you lost. I'm telling you to go.
Right.
So,
right.
You just learn something every time.
And totally 2 different dogs. Deacon's grandfather is Doc's father. And so the lineage is almost completely similar, a Cane dog and a Deacon dog, but of course Cane was before Deke. But just 2 totally different dogs. And of course, doing it again and going through, I tweaked some things and I did some things differently. And the main thing is you got to embrace the journey. There are times you get frustrated, and there's times when Deacon came here for 5 weeks and I just hit a block. I just hit a wall. And I learned so much, even with all the history of hunting and growing up and doing it. And then Doc was much different. And the reason for our retriever group in Charleston was because anytime there was an opportunity for Deacon, for me to get around Mike or group work, whether it was Purcell's, whether it was Westerfeld, whether it was the Dakotas, whether it was Charleston Jubilee back in the day.
Yeah, Garden Gun Jubilee.
I tried to get him around on group work, and that was one of the reasons we started doing some group work with a bunch of dogs in Charleston was you think you got a good dog, but line up 20 into a field in North Dakota, wind blowing into their noses, birds piling out, and it's the ultimate challenge.
It really is. Always there's a couple things I kind of like to live by. One, if you're coming here to train, you need to leave your ego at the gate. Just how it is. Somebody's going to have a better dog.
Yeah.
Whoever you are. The other thing is, never brag on your dog walking to the duck blind.
Never.
Only walking out, because they'll make a liar out of you every time.
Every time.
No matter how good they are. It's like they have this special thing. I heard what he said. I'm going to make him look foolish today. So those things are super important. The other thing that you've been able to do, as I have, that makes it super fun is hunting in so many different environments.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have a dog who can just transition without thinking, Dixie, we got out of the truck. She knew what she was doing. She saw those long fields in North Dakota quartering today. She sees the water. All right, we're duck hunting today. So she just changed her whole demeanor on what we were doing and how she handled things. And that was the great thing. She's hunted from Canada to South Texas and everywhere in between. So, and nothing phases her. And that's the big thing about transitional training and why we set things up so many different areas on the property so nothing phases them.
I mean, you think you got it and you really think you got your arms around it, but you got to walk it back 5 times 5. You got to walk it back and do it in a lot of different places. And the other thing is, it's fun for you and your dog, to look back and say you've hunted in 8 or 9 different states. I mean, I got to see some of Dixie's finest, and I never will forget that bird, full-on Drake mallard in Arkansas. Most likely I hit it. I don't know. Maybe you hit it. Maybe Bobby hit it.
We know Bobby didn't hit it. We know Bobby didn't hit it. It was
probably you or I. But we tagged it, and that bird sailed on us, and it was a good 400 yards when that bird finally went down. And, of course, I looked at Bobby. Bobby looked at you. I looked at you, and we're like, well, it's going to be Dixie. And off you went. And to see her finally get that bird, and I can still in my mind's eye see that big white mallard breast and you from about 400 yards away. I was like, yeah, Tom's going to be about 7 foot tall when he gets in here with that bird. And so many of the things that you just shared in terms of, going to different places, checking your ego. Chris Torrin and I, head trainer at Wildrose, Carolina, talked about that a ton. And, being cool and calm as you train and embracing that, because if you think it's just about the dog, you're missing the point. Mm-hmm. It's about you. It's about you learning, and it's about you doing what that dog will do for you. I mean, you go jump in 35-degree water. Yeah. You go try that a couple times. See how it works for you.
You're going to like it. That's what I tell people at the very end of puppy picking. I say, we have hammered you with do's and don'ts. Don't get so wrapped up in the minutia that you don't have fun. Because what's the point at that point?
Yeah.
For you or the dog, that you're not having fun.
Yep.
So you're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad days. Dog's going to have bad days. Guess what? There's tomorrow.
Yep.
And that's kind of how my philosophy has changed from being I wasn't age young, even though I looked it.
You did.
But being a young in the profession trainer to kind of change how I did it, where, don't take yourself so serious, have fun. Yeah. You're going to mess up. Dog's going to mess up. It's okay. We can fix it. We've got time.
And we think we can push rope. We really do. We think we can force it and breaking it down in those small steps and doing it in those different places. And it's going to come. And you got to have faith that it's going to come. And you treat your dog right and treat your dog well. You learn, you pick up from other people and other trainers, and it's going to happen. And I think that's probably one of the things 20, 30 years ago is it was very much a force mentality. We're going to force your dog to do X, Y, or Z. I knew that at 14 years old, I was going to force Buck to come back to me. But I tell you, I waited several nights for him to come back the next day, and you learn, and the great thing is you learn about yourself to be I really think a better person, and ultimately a better trainer. And your dog knows it. Your dog knows who you are. He knows if you had a good day or a bad day. And every day you got to look at it yourself and make it fun and enjoy it. It's just such a great thing, and it will all come together. I promise. If you do the work, if you do the work,
if you put the work in.
I said, put the work in.
Don't put your expectations here if your work ethic's here with your dog.
Yeah, and
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you got to grade your dog on your dog. You cannot, and as much as we all want to get competitive, and my dog did this or my dog did that, especially as you're bringing that young dog along every year, if you think your dog got a little better, you won. And that was part of the Dean Smith analogy. As many times Dean would say about his team, he'd say, "We lost, but we won. We were better than we were last week.
Yeah.
We might have gotten beat by Duke, but as much as I hated it, my team is better and we'll be better than preseason." And the same thing for a 1-year-old dog. It's not going to be able to fairly compete against a 4-year-old dog that's been out to the Dakotas 100%. And got 30 hunts in. It's just not going to happen, and it does take time. But remember to embrace each step along the journey, because if they're having fun, that will continue to be fun for them. And you can't fake the work, and that's the last thing you said about that was, you can see it all the time. And at our group work, I can see who's walking in and who's ready. I can see who's not, and you can see it. There ain't no faking this stuff.
Nope.
There's no faking this stuff. And those that are calm and cool and collect and ready to go, because your dog knows if you're uptight. He knows he knows if you're not ready. But there's other times that we got this. Mm-hmm. We're going to be okay. Yep. We got this. I've done this, Dad, and I saw that one plop over there and land, and that beautiful Drake pintail is not getting out of here. I'm going to get it.
Yeah, well, just like you were talking about that retrieve Dixie made in Arkansas. So you and Bobby are from South Carolina. Dixie grew up hunting in Central Kentucky. Yeah. What was the biggest factor of that retrieve? Ice.
Yeah.
Your dogs hadn't seen any ice.
Got to punch through that ice. 4 or 5 different sections.
She had to get up there and then get on the ice, then push back to that wood line. And for her, it was a Tuesday because, she'd done ice her whole life. And your all's dogs hadn't seen it.
I remember that knocking a gadwall down, fell to the right. It was Deacon's turn. We had the ice eater out. It was cold. And
it was cold.
I remember sending Deacon and looking down and saying a quick prayer and saying, "Oh God, please God, Deacon, please get that bird." And thanks to doing all the reps, he did. But it was new to him, and you could tell he was figuring it out.
Yep.
And that's where being patient with your dog is such a key thing in the training process. Really is. And I've been fortunate, and I'll tell on Tom a little bit. I've been fortunate to hunt with Dixie. Uh-oh. I've been fortunate to hunt with Teddy on Teddy's first hunt when Teddy was first shipped back as an import. We were in Arkansas again. And then Mattis. God, we walked that year in North Dakota. Ooh. Every day was 25 to 30,000 steps. And, of course, we might have poached a few birds from you along the way. But finally. That's right. Finally, Tom had 2 roosters come up at the same time. And he got a double rooster on Mattis's first roosters in the Dakotas. Mm-hmm. And I can still remember that little corridor, that little hedgerow, and walking. It was the end of the day. We were hot and tired, but 2 at one time. I was like, well, it was worth it.
It was.
It took a while, but it was worth it.
It was. That was so amazing for him to get those first bird, and it was a double, and they were pretty close. And he brought the first one back, and you would think by that point in time I was going to be pretty calm, a professional, and I'm like, "Oh, Mattis," and he got out there and he just took his line and he just found it.
That's the first time I heard you talk as much as me. We all have to talk a little, but you were talking. You were talking a lot, and I was like, boy, he's excited. And who can't be?
Yeah.
I mean, who can't be? Beautiful red stud dog that's throwing out good puppies now, and just turned into an amazing hunter, and to get 2 cock roosters in North Dakota as your first one. No different than we were talking about my brother. He had 2 roosters on point with his setter at the time, and just such cool stuff. And that's where we get so caught up in this limits and how many did you kill and how many you do. It's those moments you're out there, and those are the treasures. Those are the things that I'll never forget, whether it was Dixie or Callie or any of the dogs I've hunted with, being able to sit there quietly and do it. It's not the stack of birds you had. It's not all the birds you're seeing. It's that, Yeah,
we've had that conversation several times out in North Dakota when the days are slow. I mean, the sunrises and sunsets out there are just unbelievable. And then you're hanging out with your buddies, like-minded individuals, bunch of awesome dogs. And then you go back, you have some dinner, have some drinks, tell us a bunch of lies.
The hang is important. And I will tell you, some of my favorite times are in the truck. It can get a little raunchy. It can get a little irreverent. But there are times we've been falling out of the truck in tears, laughing. And the camaraderie of guys you get to know over the years, new guys, old guys. I've been fortunate to have a great friendship with Tom, and there are times we've crawling out of the truck, and the things I remember is some of the stuff in the truck. Me, Jason, you, or Bobby, or anybody, and just between fields and the stuff in the duck blind as well. Mm-hmm. My buddies in South Carolina, Matt and Jody, Drew and Bubba, just laughing till we cry. Somebody blows a shot, and that banter, and hopefully guys don't take themselves too seriously. Sometimes we all do, but to do that and let loose and laugh and backslap and watch the dogs do their thing, it's just such a blessing. And it's just to have that opportunity to be doing that and doing what we do that's what it's all about. I call it the hang.
Yeah.
When we're hanging together, and then those times at dinner and the rehash afterwards and having some good food and good beverage and the dogs all chilling around us on place. That's what I look back on. Don't get me wrong. In the 70s, I feel a lot of coolers. Yeah. There were no rules, no limits. And a lot of times I've had my share of limits, but the things I look back on are the truck time, the hang time, laughing and cutting up. That's where it's at.
I'd say one of the funniest things was when we were in Arkansas, and that guy just looked at me and you and Bobby says, "Y'all ain't right."
Yeah, and that's a joke. That's a joke I will not tell. And I know the joke we were talking about. Yep. And the guy, I remember the guy's name.
He just started laughing and said, "Y'all ain't right."
Yeah. But I mean, and that was the cool. He had a good time with us.
And then he goes, "I can tell y'all are really good friends just because the way y'all cut up." He goes, and that's cool.
Yeah. And not to take yourself so seriously, and somebody's going to blow a shot. And sure enough, I want to hit it too, but when we all get relaxed and we're all having fun, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And the dogs are such a part of that. But that hang and I tell this story about when I first got to Dakotas with Mike, and I didn't know the Wildrose group too well at the time, and I'll never forget it. I'd just flown in. I'd flown my dog out there. And I was like, oh my God, what am I getting into? I had 4 upland bird hunts with Deacon. We had worked hard, but I'd had a significant knee surgery that took me out probably 6 to 9 months in terms of getting him ready. And I was walking to the lodge, and there's Mike walking out. And the first thing Mike said to me, "Can I help you with anything?" And that's when I knew I was with the right people. Yeah. And you can't fake that, and that's just what it's all about.
Yeah, 100%. And looking at God's creations.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, it's just amazing. Dwayne, who's behind the scenes, behind the camera right now, has been out there with us taking photographs, and it's just one of my favorite spots. That, South Texas, timber in Arkansas, it's hard to pick one.
It is. And my men's group at Mazzo's Deli challenged me, but I do thank God, and it is a blessing, and it is a blessing to see his creation, see what he's done, and take a step back and savor a little bit and look around. I mean, this stuff is magical. Birds that migrate 3,000 miles. How does that happen? How do they come back to the same monarch butterfly that flies in the wind in the northeast Easters and flies down the coast to get back to Mexico, and the magicalness of what we have, and the blessing and the opportunity to do what we do is just such a blessing and such a cool thing to have, and a cool thing to be a part of. And I don't think there's anyone, if you do it enough, that's what keeps you coming back.
Yeah, I agree. So, been retired 2 years.
Yeah, man.
So what's next for Dawson Cherry?
Boy. Looking forward to another Dakotas trip. I love Adventure Dog, and we've done that twice in Saluda, North Carolina.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about Adventure Dog.
I've done some hunt seminars, and shout out to my guys at the Duck Club, Lou and Ryan and Dalton and Larry. And those guys have done some seminars out there. We have a mountain house, and it gets hot in Charleston. And
this time of year it does.
Yeah, it does. And so I turned to my wife and I was like, what do you think about doing Adventure Dog in July in Saluda? And we've got the Green River, we've got Little Bradley Falls hiking trail. We do 4 other skills: mountain bike, paddleboard, fishing, retrieving drills. And it is really a different vibe and a little bit of a different group, but equally as challenging and equally as fun. And even this year, a week before, I still had people trying to get in and trying to be a part of it. It sold out very, very quickly. We'll do it again next year. In terms of looking forward or new things that I want to do, really looking at doing a cast and blast, spring or fall in Charleston, kind of a redfish thing on the boat for a day, and then I've got some places that I'm kind of in my back of my mind, some historic plantations and stuff that I love to do some drills in the spring or in the fall before it gets too hot. And Dwayne and I were talking beforehand, like, what am I doing? Is I'm involved with a couple of nonprofits, and shout out to my guys at Release Over 20, big conservation fishing
for
thing
the redfish,
for the redfish and for the trout, involved with CCA and involved with a local swim nonprofit as well. But if I can do 2 or 3 events, that would be cool, and that would be a retirement well lived. And then of course spend some time with my gal and enjoy time with her and doing things like that. You know, it's just such a fascinating transition from the work life that we're in. You know it. You run businesses. You built Toyota plants, and then to come out of that, it's a big transition. But I've been blessed to be able to really do the things I've loved and work hard to be able to enjoy that. And I remember as a kid, we had Moorhead Scholarship in Chapel Hill, and there was a competition for a full scholarship at Chapel Hill, and I went through the counties, and I went through the district, and I got to the finals. And one of the questions every time was, where would you be 20, 25 years from now after you retire? You know, what would you envision yourself doing? What would you think, you know, what would be the boxes you want to check? And I said, well, you know, I hope I have a family. I hope I contributed to the community. I hope I had a good job and along the way. And I said, but after that period of time, if I could hunt and fish and do things after that period of time, that's where I'm at.
That's where you're at.
And
you earned it.
Yeah,
you worked hard all your life.
Yeah, and you know, and again, it was small, consistent behaviors that got me there and allowed me to do that and to have that time. And a lot of people will turn to me and say, you know, you should do this, you do that, but then I don't have the time. You know, Tom gives me a shout out and let's go here or let's go do this, or I reach out to you and say, hey, the trout bite's on fire right now, you need to get your butt down here. To be able to take advantage of that time is the blessing of retirement.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap it up there. Dawson, thanks so much coming in from Charleston. Sorry, folks, but we got fresh shrimp waiting to be eaten at the house that Dawson brought in, so we're going to cut this off right now. But thanks so much. We've known each other a long time. It's great to have you on the podcast, and we're going to do some training tomorrow, go watch a little football scrimmage and have some fun and go to the farmer's market, do cool stuff.
Yeah, excited to be here. It's been a great time and a great day, and I think I've given shout-outs and blessings to all the folks I know and some of my good buds along the way, and just so happy to be here. And tomorrow we're gonna do the things we love. We're through the two worst things, I'm sure, in Mississippi, but I know in Charleston it's July and August, and we're getting ready to hit that time, football season, hunting, all of that stuff, and we're going to train some dogs and have some fun, and it's a great thing, and got some fresh shrimp, and just so happy to be here, thankful to be here, honored to be here, and to be a part of what this is all about.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Find us at uklabs.com, Wildrose Kennels on all the socials, wildrosetradingcompany.com for all your cool gear, like these Yeti bowls, these new Yeti cups, all your training gear, all your logoed apparel. Come visit us. Like and subscribe. Help us out. We're just getting started, and see y'all next time.
Thank you.